Don't engage alone. We do this together.
Yeah,
we got it. We got it.
New 52 book.
somebody clip this one.
Welcome to Comics League Movie Night. I'm Jared. So far, I'm here solo, so you're just gonna have to deal with my beautiful face for this week. Good God, was this one of the worst movies I have ever seen? And remember, this is including a world where Justice League exists. This is somehow... Actually, no, it's not worse than Justice League. It's on par with how bad Justice League is. Like, all right. So I am talking about the JLA 97 movie. And first off, just want to remind you guys to like this stream and share it out to anyone that's interested. So anyway, continuing on. So I went into this honestly not expecting to be this bad. I've seen clips of it, so I kind of understood that I was walking into something that is somehow a crime against comic book films. So I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe it won't be that bad. Maybe people have been exaggerating. That's possible, right? Okay. Oh boy, was this like, wow. So this movie is, so let me go to the Wikipedia page. We can kind of go through this. So what's kind of, this movie starts off and it immediately loses me with the almost like home movie. Randy says it could be worse. We could have gotten a Lois Lane standalone movie. Just kidding. Yeah, I know. But don't be so sure, because according to the internet, that's what James Gunn's Superman movie is going to be. But who knows? So the CGI in this is somehow worse than Green Lantern. And Green Lantern had some pretty decent CGI. But somehow, like, the ring constructs are like the most noodly pieces of crap I have ever seen. What's up, Brown Destroyer? Oh, yes. The flying is the worst. Here's the way they probably did the flying. You ready? They had the actress jump, and they just clicked and dragged the element of her jumping all the way into the air. That's how they do this. That's how this looks. The Flash moving really fast looks crappy. That's why I'm like, I don't want to hear about the Flash VFX for the Flash movie that recently came out. I don't want to hear about how bad the CGI was in that, because we have this to worry about. We have this titan of comic book cinema. Oh my gosh, it was peak. No, it wasn't. And so you may wonder, what's the lineup of the Justice League? Fire, Ice, Guy Gardner, who doesn't act like Guy Gardner, the Atom, and the Flash. Now, here's the problem with this. Originally, I had thought, well, that was the JLA lineup at the time. After all, this was like in the era where the JLA was not taken that seriously. But here's the thing. I'm checking here. It's kind of interesting is the JLA run for Grant Morrison was around this time. So it's actually, this came out like a month or so after the Grant Morrison JLA run started. So that wasn't even the JLA lineup. To be fair, this was a TV. But Brown, counterpoint, I've seen great TV movies that somehow aren't this. And you may be wondering, Jared, what are some of the other bad parts of it? So allow me to show you some stuff. As you saw in the as you saw in the thumbnail, excuse me, the costumes look cheap as freaking. I'm like, what was this? It's almost on Power Rangers level. I'll actually share my screen right now so we can go over this. But look at this. This was Justice League International. Yeah, but there's a reason why Justice League International haven't gotten that much attention. Look at this. Look, this is the lineup that they decided. This is the Justice. And here's the problem. Here's the other problem, Brown. This was labeled Justice League of America, not Justice League International. If this was Justice League International, you'd have more of an argument here. But this is not the JLA. Also, here's the funny part. This is supposed to be Guy Gardner, right? But they gave him the Kyle Rayner mask. I'm like, make up your mind. And yes, Atchison, this does look way worse than Power Rangers. And I'm like, my expectations were low, but oh my God, was this bad. Stop with the pop-ups. So you may be wondering, Jared, what's the plot of this thing? I'm calling it thing because this shouldn't even qualify as a movie. So the protagonist, Tori Olaf's daughter, is a meteorologist working at the Meteorological Institute, who will later become ICE. The city of New Metro, not even Metropolis. No, I'm saying they got the idea from. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying there. But again, this is not the right. It's wow. So ICE sees like a tornado come with the city of New Metro. So they made up a city. They could have used Metropolis, but then again, it would get into the question of where's Superman? But I guess they could have said Superman's dead at this point. Still, it makes zero sense. Moving on. So the Justice League stopped the tornado. Then Tori stumbles across a lab, pours water on a piece on a component, and then gets blasted back and gets ice powers. That's how they do that. And it continues on, but here's the other part of it. I could have taken a crappy plot if the acting was in any way decent. And this makes Batman and Robin look good. Honestly, Randy, I'm kind of agreeing with you on this because it makes Batman and Robin look so much better. It makes it look like Zack Snyder's Justice League. Did they have rights issues with main characters? I don't know. I'm looking that up, but it is based on the Justice League comic era by Keith Griffin and J.M. DeMatteis. So yeah, you are right that it's based on JLI. Sorry. But they should have named it Justice League International then. Just name it that, and then you would have gotten at least it's accurate to the team. Like the only actual Justice Leaguer in this movie is the Flash. That's it. So it's been labeled also as friends with superpowers, which that's the way I kind of got that vibe, which they do show the League hanging out, which is cool because they're supposed to be like a team / family. So I guess that's how they like justify that. But the issue is is it wrong that this is more interesting than the actual Justice League stuff? And they picked a supervillain who basically the costume is they just wrap tinfoil around someone's head. That's the villain. And then here's the other funny part. So at one point, Ice walks in on the villain as he's recording his like threatening video. So on the video, he's wearing the tinfoil hat thing. But when she sees him, it's just the dude's face. So he's not wearing the mask. So I'm like, can you guys get your continuity right somehow? The answer is no. But I'm just like, what the heck is going on? By the way, fun fact. Mark Waid has said that this film was 80 minutes of my life I'll never get back. So that is 100% pure Mark Waid. To be fair, WB always treated DC as non-profitable and ignorant, hence the Marvel got ahead as a brand. Yeah, and as we saw with Zack Snyder, it's the same way. The other thing that's interesting about this is it's like they actually thought that these characters would be able to sell a movie. But anyway, So the plot goes is that she's recruited by the Justice League. Ice is recruited by the Justice League, and she's taken to the headquarters, which is some like underwater spacecraft, which as far as I know, that wasn't that may have been JLI headquarters, but I thought JLI actually had an actual embassy like Themyscira did. But continuing on with the movie, we get what is quite possibly the goofiest looking Martian Manhunter in a long time. And what's really funny about it, hang on, I'm trying to zoom in on it. I'm trying to find a good image of Martian Manhunter so you guys can share in the suffering with me. Okay, here we go. So I'm trying to get a zoom in on the picture. For some reason, no one has like a good image of Jean-Jean. Here we go. This is the Martian Manhunter in the movie. Are you guys ready? Right there. That is the Martian Manhunter in the movie. It looks like Zordon from frickin' Power Rangers is what it looks like. That's what this movie is. And again, this is basically Power Rangers, but with Justice Leaguers. And it is one of the most moronic things I have ever seen. I'm like, how the heck was this ever even considered as a movie? So then the plot continues. They tell her, join the Justice League. We'll help you master your powers. In the most stereotypical plot ever, even for back then. And so this is, Brown. They also chose the most uncool and not sexy looking actress to play superheroes. Yeah, exactly. Continuing on. Then they have this scene where apparently ice is making the entire place cold. And I'm like, okay. Then they show like the Justice League are all of a sudden catching colds from this. And then like when they leave the base, they're fine. I'm like, just make up your freaking, this is stupid as hell. That's the title of this movie. The stupidest Justice League movie ever. Then Green Lantern decides, I'm going to go confront Weather. I'm just going to call him the Weatherman. So the way you may be wondering, how does Green Lantern fly? So what he does is he uses his ring to create a propeller, and the propeller drags him through the air. It's basically like a helicopter. He's basically like he's hanging on to a helicopter. That's basically what it looks like. And I'm like, you can fly normally. What is this? I get that they're trying to show off. Look, we have Green Lantern. He's doing all this cool stuff, but at least make it consistent. I can't believe WB actually wasted money on this garbage. Yeah, exactly. And remember, we were supposed to get the George Miller Justice League movie, and that would have been way better. Have you seen that TV pilot of X-Men, which is worse? I haven't seen that yet. That may be another review we do. That would actually be really fun to do. We can do that later. Or probably next week. And by the way, we will be doing an April Fool's stream on Monday, so be on the lookout for that. But, so I'm watching this, and not only are the effects crappy, but to your point, Brown, the actors, it feels like I'm watching a block of wood act. And you know what's really funny? The actress, Fire, is an actual actress in the movie. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So, and here's the other stupid part. You may be wondering, what are the jobs of the Justice League when they're not being Justice Leaguers? Guy Gardner is a software salesman. I'm like, did you even open the book? The answer is no, but okay. Ice is a meteorologist. I don't necessarily know her background on this. Ray Palmer is a science teacher. And I'm like, okay. Barry Allen's unemployed. Speaking of the Atom, there was the scene where he's trying to go through like this like laser like tripwire thing. So what he does is he shrinks down, which in and of itself looks just like really, really crappy CGI and like green screen. But then he decides to like do a limbo, and they start playing the limbo music in the background while he's doing this. So I'm like, I'm watching this, cringing the entire time. I didn't know it was possible to cringe more than I did on Justice League, but this is making me cringe right now. And I'm watching this completely like at that point, I was checked out. I was like, I'm just watching this because I have to do a stream on this, because otherwise that would have stopped the movie right then and there. And I'm like, the ads that I watched on Daily Motion were way better. Do not forget that back then, WB was probably number one student in the USA. They had money. Yeah, they literally had money. But again, remember, this is also during the time when, well, actually, here's the thing. I was about to say this could be that they didn't really have faith in the comic book characters, but you had like Batman 89 and Superman. So it's not like they didn't have like successes. So I'm wondering, why were you so cheap? You could have gotten some. I get this was a TV pilot, but there were TV pilots back then that were good. I'm watching this like utter insanity of a plot, which again, so it gets to where basically we get this random plot with this guy that's trying to date Fire, and then we get this scene where this guy Martin is trying to woo Fire, so he gets her all these little gifts and stuff. One of the gifts is earrings and stuff, which she wears as a superhero. I'm like, are you stupid enough to wear something that someone gave you as a civilian in your superhero attire? Do you not think no one's going to notice that? But anyway, he does notice it. And then Martian Manhunter shows up disguised as Fire to like throw him off the scent. But then they have this really weird lip sync thing, and I'm like, what? Hey, what's up, Pika? Well, Miguel Ferrer, who has voiced multiple DC characters, was cast as not Weather Wizard, which was like, WTF were they thinking? Yeah, that's true too. And I'm like, it's just, I'm watching this utter collapse, and somehow I think it's probably because 60s executives were still running things in WB who did not think comics were a profitable product. But again, Brown, they had examples of profitable products like 89 and Superman. Again, it's not like it was before Superman and Batman 89 came out, when they didn't have examples of that these movies can be good if we actually try. They had these examples, but they decided, no, let's just cheap our way through this. It's a TV pilot. We're not going to worry about it. And guess how that worked out. Hey, what's up, Tevia? How you doing? We're talking about the 97 JLA TV movie. Oh, boy. And so continuing on, like, okay, you may be wondering, Jared, what were the good parts? He says, well, I just got out of Godzilla, and that movie was fun and better than this movie. Godzilla, I will say this, Godzilla and Kong were really good. I enjoyed that movie a lot, which was nice, which is kind of funny. So I watched that and then watched JLA, and somehow I enjoyed Kong better. I wonder why that is. So what does this movie do well? Oh my gosh, I really have to think about that. No, I'm saying that these old people were very ignorant and adverse to experiment. That could be true. That could be true. I'll give you that. So I'm trying to think about what this movie does well, because practically nothing. This movie does not do anything well. Probably no, nothing. I'm gonna give it. This movie does literally nothing. Like, wow, I didn't think it was possible to do this bad. This movie. So is this movie better than Joss Whedon's Justice League? That's a question. You know what? This movie was better because at least it didn't have the Flash falling into like Fire's boobs. So at least they didn't have like that, or like overt sexual humor like Joss Whedon. Hey, what's up, Lord Thoth? Good God. I'm watching this movie and I'm like, I would rather be watching Justice League, honestly. Was this movie too bad? All right, the costume. Yeah, happy Easter, my brother. So the costumes were bad. The acting was horrendous. The CGI was bad. It makes me miss Henry Cavill's CGI lip for some reason. What else? What else does this movie do so poorly? The characters included was a horrible choice because, again, so let me get this straight. It's horrendous indeed. Yes, exactly. Here's the thing about this, though. If you're DC Comics, shouldn't you want your characters that sell to be your forefront, not Fire Ice Guy Gardner? At least if they had Hal Jordan, maybe I would have been less hard on us, but Guy Gardner. And then they're like, okay. Then they're like, what's the word? Then they're like, no, we're gonna bring in the D tier who got killed off by who got like beaten the crap out of in Doomsday. So Watchtower was an underwater base. Yeah, in this movie it was, which I'm like, you couldn't do a thing on the moon. This movie or the 90s Captain America movie. I've only watched the honest trailer for that, and I'd rather watch that than this again. Because at least, because look at this one, I have more of an attachment to the JLA brand. So watching this made me wish for the days when made me very appreciative for the DC movies era we live in now. Because no matter what you think of, like, I'd rather watch Birds of Prey. Let me put it this way. This is how bad the movie was. I would rather watch Birds of Prey 16 times, like I watched the Snyder Cut, than watch this again. Like, why even go with the Justice League and not the actual league themselves? Yeah, exactly. Because again, Tavia, to my point, it wasn't like they made this before Grant Morrison came up. Well, they kind of did, but it's the Grant Morrison JLA run was out at this point. They picked the league that no one gave a crap about, and they got beaten the crap out of in the first few issues, and then in the previous Death of Superman arc. But then it's like, no, okay. I bring this up again because Grant Morrison's argument in the 90s was, why do the Justice League suck? So Brown asked, what was the budget? So let's see what was the budget. Let me see here. I'm gonna look that up real quick because that's a good question. Budget. This was, so far it's not telling me. That's a concerning sign. Is this one? No, this is Justice League. It's not telling me. Yeah, it's not telling me. Hang on. I'm trying to see this budget. Yeah, they're not telling me what the budget was. Oh, that's interesting. I don't think did they tell me what the budget is? The other thing this movie does poorly is that they start bringing in like these really they kind of turn this into an office like project in that they have like mock interviews happening. So it's like The Office. But again, that just highlights how crappy these actors are. That is the hilarious part. Dave says, honestly, I would have liked to see a season of this. Would be no worse than true. Grant Morrison Jr. started in 97, so it didn't exist as source material until right. True. I'm just like, why? Here's the thing. I'm like, but here's the thing, Pika. They weren't even basing it, even though that this is labeled Justice League of America, this is based off of JLI. At least call it JLI if you're using that lineup, which, by the way, didn't sell that well as far as I know until the end. So I'm like, why even do that? It's a B movie budget, more like C movie. So yeah, all in all, in terms of this movie, how do I rate this? Oh man. In terms of this movie fails on literally everything. I'm just like, what? Yeah, this should have been named JLI, not it wasn't even just called Justice League, Tever. It's called Justice League of America. I'm like, that's not the JLA. Hal Jordan was even dressed like Guy Gardner in JLI. Yeah, it's really stupid. So, in terms of how I rate this movie, 0.5 out of 10 because at least it tried something. But overall, yeah, 0.5 out of 10, a rated 1 out of 10. Yeah, it doesn't even deserve the 1. It deserves a half a point out of 10. I'm just like, what were they thinking authorizing this? Yeah, this sounds like it. Tavia, I know I bring up a lot how you call everything a train wreck, but I got to be honest, dude, this was a train wreck. If ever there was a movie that was worthy of the label train wreck, it's this one. Yeah, probably 0 out of 10. Yeah, honestly, do you really want to give it? I don't. I even think there was a lot of work put into this movie. I try to be I try to be MTV's The Real World's Cross with Superheroes. Yeah, that's what it is. That's literally what it is. That's a hilarious comparison. So, yeah, it did try and be that. And I'm like, can we not ever try that again? Heck, Fan Four Stick, as bad as that movie was, at least tried but failed. Yeah, at least I tried. I think the X-Men plot is worse than this. I'll tell you what. I will review at some point during movie night this week. We'll review that one. We'll see what we can do. In other words, I'll do a stream about it, and then I'll compare the two so we can see which one was truly the worst superhero movie of all time. Now, enough talking about this crapshoot of a movie. For the rest of the stream, I just want to do a general Q&A. Ask me whatever you want, as long as it pertains to like comic books, action movies, and such, and then we'll do that. This movie sucks. Nick, oh my god. I don't know how to respond to that because this movie, if this included it, this would be an insult to Wonderbat to be added to such a crappy movie. I forgot about the X-Men TV plot. We had Power Pack, which is also bad. Yeah. And that's the Browns' point, that there was a lot of crappy shows, but still it was like, who did this? But anyway, so Q&A time. Ask you whatever question you want about anything that happened recently in the world of comic books. What you think of what you want my opinion on in terms of plots, anything you guys want to talk about. Let's have some fun. Going off of what Dave said, you ever watch Mutant X? That's going to be a future stream, Nick, 100%. Is Robertson's Batman going to be in the Gunverse? There's a back and forth in terms of rumors going on with that. I don't think it will be. I mean, they could try to. Honestly, I feel like if WB starts to feel less secure in the gun plan, they will try and factor that in. They will try and roll the Pattinson Batman in there, and then Reeves will walk. That's what I'm gonna go with. Have you been reading Titan Comics Conan the Barbarian? I pick it up every now and then. I haven't really been reading consistently. I may check it out. That's a good idea. Speaking of Mutant X, returning X-Men relaunch. A question: if DC and the Monsters do an adaptation of Godzilla vs. Kong vs. Justice League, would that work? That would be a kick-ass animated movie. And you know what's kind of funny, Tavia? When I was watching Godzilla and Kong last night, I was like, this would be a great movie. I would love to watch this. Even live action, that'd be fun. Nick says, I heard you recently got a new trade paperback, a hot new title. That's interesting. That I just watched the Halo. Yeah, okay, you know what? That's fair. Because season 2, but by Nick, I will show that in a second. And what's the topic for Super Wonder Legacy? I will reveal that in a second, Randy. I'm glad you're interested. So, if this were, yes, 100%, they nailed. They got it closer to Halo. And that's why I always tell people. That's why I said in my review video. No matter your feelings about Halo, the show as a whole, let me tell you this. They had to get the new showrunner had to get Halo from season 1 more closer to the games, and they did it. Pika says, Jared, have you read the Archie Sonic the Hedgehog comics, which is an example of how you see Lois Lane was forced into Sonic? And he said, yeah, she's forced into everything. They said Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters is intoxicated by Lucius Fox in the Batman 2. I could see that. That's actually not that bad. I found it to be not great, but yeah, okay, cool. And Batman be like, we're going to cancel the apocalypse. Yeah, exactly. So as Nick is is alluding to, I got something in the mail. So I recently went to the comic book store. In fact, if you guys want, I can show off all the comics I picked up at the store, because these will be what I'll be reviewing at the month for all of the Comic Geek members. For those that don't know, one of the membership perks is every month I go to my comic store. I pick up a selection, about 20 to 30 books. I read them, and then I upload a little write-up just for members so you can know what to do. All right. So I upload a bunch of books, a bunch of reviews of those books. So if that sounds interesting to you, consider becoming a member. You get all sorts of perks. So, but is the main actor for Halo suitable to play Batman? He could, honestly. Judging by how he played Master Chief in season 2, he could. So anyway, so let me pick this out. So I got home and I noticed I got the trade for 2100 Samurai, and just look at this. It did Nick rebrand? No, that's just his personal Twitter account instead of the Phoenix Press. So we've got 2100 Samurai, the first comic that Nick came on to review, and we got our boy. It's getting pretty warm.
Hello, Son. How's everybody doing tonight?
So what'd you think of the JLA movie?
Gee, there's a reason this was buried by Warner Brothers. Decently casted, but the script was god awful.
I even say it's not even decently casted. In no way is it decently casted.
You got fire and ice. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Yeah. Tevye asked, question, have you been reading the current Spawn comics? I've been reading them, and it's very interesting to see the Spawn universe. I just added, so for Spawn, I'm reading Spawn, King Spawn, and Scorched, and so far they're pretty fun. I'm enjoying them. Let's see. What else do we have here for ask us any questions you guys have. Oh, by the way, so what's the topic for Super Wonder Legacy? So what Britt and I are going to be discussing is, so in the event that DC decided to actually follow through on Super Wonder, what would their families of books look like, and how would they merge? Like, in other words, how would Superman relate to like Hippolyta, the gods and stuff? And how would Wonder Woman relate to like Kara and Connor and such, and to the Kents? Because a lot of Lois fans mistakenly say that like the Kents would not approve of Diana. And I'm like, what's giving you that information? But anyway, so that's the topic, and it should be pretty fun. So are you reading current comics in 2024 from DC? Yes, I am. Okay, so since you guys asked, I might as well show off some of the stuff that I picked up. I'm just trying to get a makeshift table that I can use. I'll use this office chair. So the stuff that I am reading are, let me bring this up, Suicide Squad Kill Arkham Asylum, which it's a fun prelude to the game, so I'm enjoying that. Captain America by JMS. It's actually really good. Batman by Zdarsky. It's going all over the place, but I'm like, okay. Avengers, Transformers, Justice League versus Godzilla versus King Kong, which I'm enjoying, particularly this month's issue. I got like Nightwing, a classic issue of Martian Manhunter. I got Joker War, Action Comics, Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man. But in terms of like regular comics, it's mostly it's mostly Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Detective Comics, Action Comics. I said Wonder Woman, Green Lantern War Journal, and let's see, Batman and Robin. Let's see. Obviously, I brought up the Scorch books I'm reading, Iron Man, and really, yeah, those are the DC books that I'm really interested in. Oh yeah, Batman, the Brave and the Bold. But all in all, I'm like, okay. But hey, G, I got your voice lines edited today, so now we just wait for Crisis Part 2 to come out. Oh boy.
Okay. And as for my question, I'm gonna go ahead and respond. Batman and Robin, Trinity, Wonder Woman, I recently fell off with, because even if you factor the absolute power stuff, it's just really taking is real. I know it's a slow build and editorial changes. It's just a personal nitpick of mine why I fell off that book. Green Lantern War Journal, Batman and Robin, and I'm reading some trade paperbacks from Rebirth, such as Aquaman Rebirth
Yes.
and Batman Beyond Rebirth. I'm currently rereading that.
Aquaman is one of the few good Rebirth books. In addition to Green Lantern, Wonder Woman and Superman were pure crap. Justice League was pretty good. Trinity was okay, except when they were bashing Wonder Woman. So I'm like, screw you guys. Deathstroke was pretty good. Teen Titans was pretty good. Batman was pretty good. Again, I enjoyed the Tom King run for what it was. It wasn't the best past issue 50, but I still don't think it was as horrible as people pointed out to be.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and be honest. Most people were pissed off about the whole Batcat non-wedding. Most people, and yes, Edit 5G played a factor in that. But the moment that non-wedding happened, you had lost a huge chunk of the audience at that point.
Yeah, because they had been building that up, which is that really Tom King though, or is it like a lot of editorial? Because I still say a lot of what happens in Tom King's books that he gets blasted for are like editorial choices that he had no say in. So it's not necessarily always his fault.
Though Sanctuary is kind of Hero of the Crisis. That's kind of drawing a line, man. There's no forgiving that.
Yeah, but again, wasn't that editorial and not necessarily Tom King?
I agree. He made the best out of a bad situation. That doesn't mean you had to completely bastardize the hero of a generation and a key role in Rebirth.
Yeah. Brown asked, "Are you watching Jack Reacher?" Yes, I am. It is so good. See, you know what? The guy who plays Jack Reacher, he could be Batman. Tavia asks, "Hey, JJheat, that reminds me, I was wondering if you want to do a collaboration with me on Justice League versus Suicide Squad, comparing to Suicide Squad Kill Justice League."
Yeah, I'd be down for that. Just let me know when it's a good time for you to watch, Tavia, and we'll set that up.
Yeah, and I will be reviewing that storyline soon, which is actually not that. It's not as bad. That's what Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League should have been. But anyway, Heroes in Crisis was garbage. The thing about it, and I said this when I reviewed Heroes in Crisis, if the previous like BSery with Wally West with DC had not happened, I don't think that storyline would have been as like reviled.
That's a fair point. I'm gonna be real with y'all. That's a fair point.
Yeah. Pika says, I was one of those idiots who expected them to use the trope. If the wedding's not happening on the first try, then having them do it on the second try, the shame. Yeah, exactly. Brown says he was Aquaman Smallville. Yeah, exactly. And I think he could play a pretty decent Batman. Particularly if you're like, well, because he was also Hawk in Titans, and he's basically being Batman in that. Which, I definitely dug that. I think it was really fun. So
he has the build, but whether or not he can pull off the delivery is a separate matter. But he does have the build. I will give him that much.
Have you watched Jack Reacher?
I've watched it, but that's not Batman. That's just someone being a badass.
But he gets like the dark like idea of Batman, I guess. So
he can pull it off.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of events, are you guys excited for Blood Hunt from Marvel compared to Absolute Power? I'm not gonna read either, because it's not really that interesting to me because, again, too many events. Tavia makes up an excellent point on that, but it's also like, why? Right, Dave asks, what do you think of all the backlash against Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League DLC? All right, so the problem with this, and Talani and I encountered this issue, and that's why we have to grind before next Thursday, hopefully, so we can complete it, is that to pad out the runtime, JHeat, what they did is they made it so you can only play like the actual mission to kill Brainiac and unlock the Joker once you're like level 35. So I'm at like level 16 now, so I got some time. So they did that to pad it out. Then they make it. Here's the worst part. They make it so if you want to unlock Joker, you can just buy him in the store.
So they haven't. You go through all the trouble of grinding to level 30, or you can buy them in the store.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm still going to grind, but I'm like, and by actually, I have watched Blood of Zeus. That is a pretty dope animated show. It's basically Greek gods, but made as superheroes, which I dug that a lot. Timothy Chalamet as Dick Grayson. It's a rumor. I hate the idea. It's too short. Oh, you mean Chalamet from Dune? I could see him playing Nightwing.
He could pull it off. You'll probably need a stunt double for certain scenes, but he could pull it off.
Atchison says the only way I'll come back to the big two is if they clean house and reboot the universes. Well, with the ultimate universes for Marvel, and then with the possible alternate universe for DC, you could get that soon. So it's not like you're gonna have to wait so long. And by if he could bring up a good point, he's also too young next to Pattinson. And that's the other thing. If they go with the option of bringing in Pattinson as the DCU Batman, let's say in the unlikely event that happens, that limits who they can have as Nightwing because he's a relatively young guy. I mean, he's playing a young Batman. And then all of a sudden, it's like now you have Nightwing. Because how are you going to do Titans without Nightwing unless you have Dick Grayson be Robin? But still, wasn't Grayson like Robin for a few years before he formed the Teen Titans?
Okay, in most versions, and Teen Titans 03 especially, Grayson rebels against Bruce to form the Titans roughly anywhere between the ages of 15 to 19, somewhere in that range. I'm speaking both in comics and in media adaptations. But at the same time, there is a way where you could have Nightwing and do a Teen Titan or Titans film. I mean, you could do basically what Young Justice did, where you basically combine the two teams together with that show, or you can go with the DCAMU route. Either way is pull-offable. You just have to have Nightwing in a mentorship role.
True. Question, speaking of comics, that reminds me, any opinion on X-Men 97 being a success and Marvel hoping for... That would be great. If they bring back Spider-Man and we can actually get a conclusion to that freaking arc, I would love that. I wish Nick were here so we could talk about this. But JJheat, I'll ask you, what do you think with the possibility of them bringing back that animated like universe?
Spider-Man the animated series, it has potential, but you gotta have to test the waters with how X-Men does. So far, with 3 episodes in, X-Men's doing pretty good so far. I have no complaint. Maybe some nitpicks compared to the source material. That's just the comic theorist in me, but nothing too substantial. It's just whether or not they can stick the landing at the end of the season before I can actually say, okay, maybe they can bring back Spider-Man the animated series, or bring back Fantastic Four, or etc. But this is but X-Men 97 is definitely the boost the franchise needed. I will say that much.
Well, after the metric crapshoot that was the Krakoa era, this is what we needed. But I think if they're gonna do it, because they're having conversations about doing it right now. But what I think is gonna happen is that if it happens at all, it'll be after season 1 ends, so they can see how people receive the entire season, and then they'll announce, "Hey, we're bringing back all this other stuff because now we kind of know that more or less this was successful." Because for me, I would be yeah, exactly. Have you seen the Iron Man animated series? You mean the Teenage Iron Man series? I watched a little bit of it. It's not that good. It's nowhere near as good.
Sorry.
It's nowhere near as good as the Iron Man. It's nowhere near as good as that one.
Not gonna lie. I gotta be honest.
If they bring back the 90s shows, I want that one to also come back too. Please give me that. And then go ahead.
Okay, settle this in the comments for us. Which was better, Invincible Iron Man or Iron Man Armored Adventures? Like, there's no real comparing the two.
I don't like Armored Adventures, dude. I think that show falls apart in the premise. It's like
you basically turned Tony into Peter Parker.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of funny. It's kind of humorous how the MCU turns Peter Parker into baby Iron Man, and then the Armored Adventures show turns Iron Man into Peter Parker.
That's probably how they got the idea.
Yeah, as long as they don't do stuff off screen, they should be fine. Yeah, as long as they don't break up Superman and Wonder Woman off screen. Yes, I'm not letting that go. So before you say that, JJheat, I'm not letting that go. So
you got a throwaway line. That's better than most in this business.
It's still, stay with me now, off screen. it would look short. Hugh Jackman played Wolverine for a reason. True. As long as they don't do stuff on screen. The Iron Man animated movie from years ago was pretty good. Yeah, you know what? Of the animated movies that came out back then, the Invincible Iron Man movie was better.
Okay, are we talking about the ones based on the Ultimate comics at the same time, or are we talking about the anime-inspired standalone movies like Iron Man and Punisher, Wolverine?
The ones that were basically part of the that were kind of based off Ultimate Comics.
Okay, those were pretty good. Not gonna lie, those were pretty good.
Ultimate Avengers was good. I'm talking about. I think he's talking about the Iron Man movie from 2007. That was actually pretty good.
Yeah, and didn't they do a animated Doctor Strange movie? Which the MCU
they did. I didn't watch that. It wasn't really my thing, but still, I wish that Disney didn't kill the Marvel animated movie universe. Yeah, that would be interesting. American Average Ways. Okay, yeah. I am shocked Marvel gave up on their animated movies. Well, because they weren't getting a lot of success, though. That's the thing.
They weren't doing more DC numbers. Let's be honest. As ironic as that sounds, they weren't doing Disney numbers, and the Ultimates continuity pretty much imploded by 2010.
Yeah, Atchison says Planet Hulk, Hulk v Wolverine, and Hulk v Thor were great. Yeah, those were actually. I've only seen of those. I saw Planet Hulk. I wish they did a sequel called World War Hulk. I think that would have been super cool.
Too much setup for one film.
No, but you could have just followed it up. You could have made that the follow from Planet Hulk.
True, but the main premise is the Illuminati, how they ultimately went behind everyone's backs, exiled Hulk off world, his spaceship destructs, causing a massive radioactive fallout, and then Hulk scours the galaxy, finding his way back to Earth for revenge. Other than the Illuminati getting their comeuppance, which you still need to use some premise of Civil War for content, I'm just saying that's a lot to do in 90 minutes.
True. Now, let me ask you this, JJheat, and I'll ask the chat the same thing. What do you guys think of the next Avengers Heroes of Tomorrow movie that was apparently in the same continuity as the Ultimate Avengers movies?
It's a good epilogue, the next generation, the Ultron apocalypse. For those series of movies, it was a good epilogue, especially since we never got a follow-up. But as a standalone project, I just don't. I get it's based on Ultimate.
Annoying.
Who was annoying?
Like Hank Pym's kid, the most annoying voice of all time. The only one I liked a little bit was Torrin, Thor's daughter, but still, I was like,
You do realize that was a literal child. Pym was like no more than like 8 or 9.
I know. It's just they picked a it's like that high of a voice. It was like, oh, shut up. A question. Speaking of comics, I'm just wondering if you guys read Sinister Sons because I read that book and it's really good. Well, I see. I'm not interested because I see what Tomasi's doing. He's trying to recapture Super Sons, and the problem with it is that even though Super Sons didn't sell well, the premise was good. The idea that Superman and Batman's kids would at some point hang out. That's why that book, again, as much as I didn't enjoy it, works as a concept. Sinister, he should have picked two villains whose kids hang out. Zod and Sinestro aren't like around each other ever,
except maybe in a handful of stories here and there. But even then, they're so far removed; they don't even interact like that. Maybe Bizarro. Bizarro and Luthor. Something like that.
But still, I'm like, that doesn't work. And wait, how is the next Avengers connected to the? Well, because no, it's not standalone. Granted, they changed some of the Avengers designs, but they use the same character. They use the same story beats. They use the same. They use the same actors. They use the same music. They use the same pairing. So pretty much it's the same. The only thing that they kind of change is like Hank Pym is dead, but that could easily be changed at any point. Even at a time, Jackman from the comics from being too tall. Yeah, exactly, Dave. Wait, Average American Heights 5'11". I'm so sorry. I think the idea of two 2-year-olds fighting crime is dumb. 2 10-year-olds. Yeah, me too. The premise doesn't work, but I'm just like, at least with the Super Sons idea, the premise was more solid than Sinister Sons. As soon as I read that, I'm like, the only reason this exists is because you had Super Sons taken away from you. That is why.
Even if we factor that, because it kind of plays into manga, really, or the closest America really, Western comics really had to manga, to where you see dynamics like this and shown, especially in Battle Shonen, all the time. So it does have an appeal, even if it's not the Batman or Punisher or Superman, there was an appeal there. Now, factor editorial, factor 5G, all of it. Let's go ahead and break the misconception right here and now. John was not integrated post-convergence strictly for 5G. He was repurposed for 5G. There's a difference. Second, even if we factored all that, this was a very loose concept based on an anthology title from the 70s, which even in pre-crisis, hardly anyone took seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that even if you give a modern spin on it, I'll go into more detail in my Damian Wayne retrospective, but it ultimately holds these characters back. You're trying to keep them within a strict time period to where there's no real development. It's just a bunch of preteens bantering and bickering amongst themselves while barely either trying to save the day or have a safety net in their parents in the Justice League to bail them out. It's a very specific story. And once you have these characters try to grow out of it in any way, you get the existential dread that, hey, these kids are getting older and they're eventually going to drift apart. Go ahead.
Plus, John Kent is redundant because you had Connor. I'm like, why are you bringing in another Superboy when you have Connor?
Connor was shelved in the New 52 in a good chunk of Rebirth, so that's explainable.
No, I'm just saying, bring him back. You already have a pre-existing character that had fans. That's my point there. And by the way, it's heavy. I know that, but what Atchison is saying is that the concept of these kids fighting crime is kind of dumb. And let's not forget, the book was written crappily. Like the fact that Lois Lane enters a Hellbat suit to fight the Eradicator. How does she? That was part of why I loathe Lois, is because DC tries to make her out to be like this. They try to turn her into Rey Skywalker. Pretty much, that's what they do.
Okay, that's a bit of a stretch, but I see where the anger is. I see where the anger is placed. I get where you're.
Yeah, and Tabby says, here's the thing: when we could have kept Super Sons intact alongside with Wally's kids. No, but that wouldn't be Super Sons, because part of the reason why it's called Super Sons because Superboy, the son of Superman, is on that team. You can't just do that. It doesn't work from a naming convention.
Okay, hot topic, rip Band-Aid. I'm just going to say it. Super Sons is just a revamp of World's Finest because of the whole 2 Superman debacle in 2016. Yes. I'll say it.
Yes, that's it. That's what it is.
I mean, compare it to any version of World's Finest, and it's pretty much the same premise.
Yeah, except in my mind, not as well written. Because again, you guys know how much I don't like Tomasi's writing. So there you go. Randy says Rey Skywalker, more like Wonder Woman light. Don't insult Wonder Woman by comparing her to Rey Skywalker, please.
Chad, can we please just avoid the Raylo jokes, please? I know I'm not a big fan on shipping, but even I detest that at this point.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Again, and that's fine with it, Tavia. It's just the overall, from a story perspective. Let me put it this way, Tavia. Take it away from Super Sons. Would you still like it if it weren't in Super Sons? Oh, by the way, Atchison says, correction, Ray Palpatine. That is true. There you go. Somehow Palpatine returned. But so what other questions do you guys have for us real quick? And then we'll continue on. What other, yes. All right. Well, anyway, it's just, it'd be one thing again if they had like Batgirl use the Hellbat armor, because at least she's connected to Batman in a way that he would have taught her how to use the suit at least. Lois Lane. Why would Batman because Rebirth Superman in Action Comics was amazing. Okay, you
Fair
can
point.
like it. You can like it, but from a sales perspective, it wasn't.
Now, I will say this. As much as, no matter how paranoid any version of Bruce Wayne Batman is, he always has safeguards and access via the Watchtower, the Hall of Justice, some type of backup server, even in Cyborg. So if Lois had that, and with Lois being partnered with Clark for so long, I wouldn't be surprised that she had league access, at least to a degree.
No. Not just league access. I'm not saying access to the Batcave. I'm saying access to and knowledge how to use a Hellbat suit.
I'm pretty sure this was just it was supposed to be written as a mother's rage moment against Eradicator, and you're just completely blowing it out of proportion.
No, but again, it doesn't make sense that she would know how to get in this. That she would know that Batman would have taught her how to use the suit. It's the same energy as Rey fighting Kylo Ren at the end of Episode 7 and knowing how to use a lightsaber.
Pretty sure that was explained better in the books, but I get your argument.
That's my exact same. It's the exact same thing. But Damien's character casting should be very important. Yeah, it is. But that's gonna be interesting to see. So, what other questions do you guys have for us as we continue to try and get away from talking about the stupidest Justice League movie of all time? Like, wow.
I don't think even as a Justice League International movie, this would have been salvageable. Like, Jesus Christ.
But here's the thing. Why would he have to teach her? Could be intuitive. Okay, but... Okay.
From what we know... Okay, let me go ahead and take over.
Wait. Hey, I want to say one thing and then I'll jump to you. Why would Batman let anyone else other than him use his Hellbat suit? This is the guy that's paranoid to have contingency plans about anyone misusing power.
Neutralize, not kill.
Yeah.
But with that being said, again, all we know about the Hellbat armor, at least when it originally debuted in, I want to say Robin Alpha. It could have been Robin Omega, but it's the same event. It feeds off human metabolism the more you use it. So if Lois just use her league access to just hop into the suit for a few seconds to push back a killer robot.
Why does she have league access?
Because she's married to Clark. This goes as far back as post-crisis.
That makes no sense again.
She's not constantly endangering herself to the point that Superman always saves her. See, there's a reason. There's a precedent for this.
No, but why does she have league access to stuff? She's not a leaguer.
Because in the event Clark is off-world, something happens to her, she could boom straight to the Watchtower.
That makes no sense, but okay. Randy brings it up. Wait. Randy has a great point. It's DC trying to make Lois Lane relevant. There's a reason why her books can't sell unless they're attached to Superman. Because look at the Greg Rucka Superman book. Greg Rucka Lois Lane book.
Because I'm about to say, Greg Rucka never did a Superman title.
He did actually. It was post-crisis, I believe. He did like a couple of comics. Think of all the things Lois has done and been through over the years. Her up in the hell, but Legion. I understand that. This is part of my argument as to why I hate Lois Lane as a character, because DC has done all these things where I'm like, she justifiably should not have been able to do that at all. It's ridiculous.
Now, as for the league access question, you do realize most heroes date other heroes or or those who are morally neutral.
But she's not a superhero, so that doesn't work, dude.
I'm just saying, I mean, Lois has been playing a role for years now, and the president is there. I wouldn't be surprised if a random writer, she's had league access as far back as Doomsday.
And then you know what I would do if I hopped in the book? I would say, you don't have league access anymore because you're not a superhero. Her books don't sell because she's a reporter, not a superhero. Why should her book sell? Because here's why, Legion. Because for the longest time, I've heard, Lois Lane is this iconic character. She's like so important to DC. Okay, show me the sales. Show me this. DC. Here's what some reason people don't get. DC is a business. It's not a charity. As far as I'm concerned, if a book does not sell, you either have to revamp the character or shelve the character. Lois Lane is a villain. She has no place on the battlefield. Yeah, she has no place, arguably, in any comics as opposed to just being an antagonist. Jimmy Olsen is a much more interesting. Yeah, Jimmy's more interesting. Marvel's a business as well. Yeah, to Marvel's credit, what Marvel did for the Spider-Man fans is they put that they put Peter and MJ together in a different universe. At least they gave that. DC,
At least you got
no.
at least you got some alternative. And I will admit this. First of all, say what you will about the MCU decline, Disney stocks, all that. Say what you will about all that. It doesn't change the fact that after Nick Spencer left for Substack, the huge push to go indie with Substack, editorial teams, editor-in-chiefs, editorial teams were pissed. And the one that was doing Amazing Spider-Man was the pettiest out of them all. This was a bad look. One of your best and most iconic characters, one of your strongest IPs, is being dragged with a mutter, barely hanging on in the top 100 in sales, just because you want to get back on one writer who left you over a royalty dispute.
Mm-hmm. And by Legion, I'm going off of what DC has marketed her as. It's not like, and what they have written her as. They write her as if she is this very key character, and I'm like, no, she's not. Arguably, she is one of the least important characters in DC.
In a meta-analytical sense, if we're going strictly beyond the fourth wall, you could easily explain why Lois would have access to these things, able to access the Watchtower, or even cyborg safeguards into the back computer. We can make a meta-analytical argument as far back as the Golden Age, but it doesn't change the fact that at the time of this book, when Rebirth was going on, all this multiverse stuff, both on and off the page, this was right after the two Supermen merged, and Lois wouldn't even have access to any of this stuff. She just chops on the armor on a whim, and I don't even remember how they even got the armor in that fight. Did it just happen to be in the fortress?
No, I think they were in the Batcave.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up for me, Jared.
I've read DC my whole life. Never got that vibe that she's some key character for the universe. Never seen her front run an event in the company's history. Because that's a good point. I'll give you that. It's just, I guess it's going off of like, I don't know. It's just, I think it's really what actually this was before Superman Reborn. So this is before the merging. That's even worse. It's the Lois Lane I hate the most. But that's a good point, dude. It's just at least like I think I'm going off of like the way she's written now, because they, at least from what I see, they do kind of try and make her out to be more important than she actually is. But don't pretend she isn't useful and important. Like Alfred plays a better role to Bruce Wayne than Lois does. As far as she's useful, here's the way they should have done Lois. Have her be an antagonist to Superman. In other words, instead of being a romantic love interest, she's the one constantly trying to expose Superman's identity for the story, because it's shown that she'll do anything for a story, like docks several superheroes like in Heroes in Crisis. That's the point. Why would Batman trust someone who exposed all their... Yeah, exactly. Her solo title worked in the day because the zany era of DC and DC was king in sales. She also had Superman in her book, but he showed up for like an issue or two.
A glorified cameo at best.
Yeah, Lois Lane is protected by grandfather clause. If she was there in the first iteration, then she has to be there in all future iterations. Yeah, exactly. And by the way, it wasn't even with Clark in the original iteration.
Again, it really was a rivals or enemies to lovers story, because they were starting reporters at the Daily Planet. They bantered, they bickered, and then it kind of, first off, I'm trying to be as PG as humanly possible. She started lusting after Superman for a while. Then Clark eventually had the guts to tell her secret identity. They bonded over that, and they were kind of in limbo for the longest time. Like, okay, you guys are together now. You guys are married. What's the next step? I know you guys it's complicated because Clark has powers and Lois doesn't. We even had All-Star Superman where Clark gives Lois powers briefly. Like, so if you want to take the next step, have a biological family, whatnot, precautions could be made. You would just have to be willing to fundamentally evolve the character of Lois, whether it be giving her powers, whether it be depowering Clark briefly, which is what they later did in Convergence, but that's besides the point. I'm just saying it's a relatively easy fix. And prior to the past 10 years or so, no writer was willing to take that risk. That's all I'm saying.
Wait, False, glorified Karen, what are you all yanking? I'm talking about her ongoing that went for years. No. We're talking about the Greg Rucka series that came out that was part of the more modern era. I get Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane. By the way, that's the only way she sold back then. But, all right. Jared, if you could write a Death of Lois Lane story, how would you take her out? Oh boy. Are you sure you want me to answer
Don't
this?
give him any ideas. We'll get demonetized.
Are you sure you want me to answer this?
Yep, we're getting demonetized.
What I would do, have her be killed in like the crossfire of a superhero battle, because then you can, or have it be like he's fighting Zod, and then she's killed in like the crossfire because like Superman like starts fighting Zod and not holding back because he knows that Zod is like fighting him. So you can make you could do a character arc where it's because of Superman's hand that Lois gets killed. Like maybe he like knocks down a building and it falls on her or something like that. The point is, do it like that. But unlike Tom Taylor, don't turn Superman into a dictator, because that's not what would happen.
He was limited by the constraints of the game. He had to find some way to justify Clark's one bad day into tyranny.
Which is stupid. But wait, we also had that in no, but here's the difference, Tevia. I wouldn't give her powers. If Lois Lane was so good, and the later end of Post-Crisis and Rebirth should have sold better than the New 52, it didn't. Like, to Randy's point, if you look at the sales of like Superman, Wonder Woman, compared to like Superman and Lois, of Superman, Lois and Clark, otherwise known as Coward Superman, that should have sold better than 35,000 if that's what all the Superman fans wanted. Same thing with Trinity. Same thing with the current Superman books. Doesn't work like that. Is Barbara Gordon as older worse? Nope.
Okay, now you're just trolling at this point.
Even if it's older, it doesn't work. We also had that. Yeah, so I talked about that one. If News was so good later, yeah, exactly. Supposedly, Lois was never meant to learn Clark as Superman early in the Golden Age, but they didn't do it because they didn't know what to do next. Yeah, exactly. And also, what's kind of funny is one of the reasons for the reboot of the New 52 was to get rid of the marriage. So there is that. Question, how do you guys kill off Aunt May, which is another character who needs to go away because Marvel has some stupid reason keeps her?
Okay, outside the specific circumstances of One More Day, Aunt May's not even that bad of a character. She's a good support. She doesn't overstay her welcome. You barely even see her in comics nowadays. Like, seriously, even if Peter exposing identity in Civil War was a publicity stunt, shout out to Linkara, even if we factored that, it doesn't change the fact that Peter would literally make a deal with the devil and undo his marriage to appease a guilty conscience.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm looking for an interesting comment that I saw earlier that I want to see. Okay, well, anyway. So a question, how would you, we already did that. If Lois Lane is the same post-crisis, how come she's still in her 30s? Well, that's because no one ever ages.
Really ages.
No one ever ages. So I'm not really that like on that. By the way, Batman dated Superman when she was living in New York from Gotham. Yeah, but I don't want that nowadays.
Wait, was that in the Golden Age?
It might have been because what Brown says she was older.
Had to be either late Golden Age or early Silver Age.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, but and someone actually summed up a perfect thing. Summed up my anti-Lois argument perfectly. Is that everything that Lois Lane contributes to Superman, literally everything, can be contributed by other characters, like Wonder Woman for the romance stuff, Batman for the keeping you grounded and humanly, even though Superman does not need to be grounded. But my point is, the way DC has made Superman like best friends with all these characters and at one point dated Wonder Woman, they've made Lois redundant. Rightly so. But everything that that people say she contributes to Superman can be contributed by other characters. Lois is in her 40s, not 30s. She's a veteran reporter by the time Clark joined the plant staff. Oh, okay. I like how Aunt May gets younger and hotter with each Spider-Man movie reboot. Should Sydney Sweeney play her next? Well, remember that they maybe can't do that because she was already Spider-Woman. But Batgirl older is anti-Lois Lane. But again, even though she'd be older, it's bordering on Bruce Timming. Yes, I had to bring in a Bruce Timm dig. There you go. So let's have a couple more last questions and then we'll wrap up this stream. I love how I only spent like 25 minutes talking about the crappy Justice League movie, which is by design because I don't want to talk about that movie that long. There's not that much I could talk about because it is the most surface level DC movie I've ever seen. Let's see. Question: besides Lois Lane, who, like I said, Lois, who character would you want to go away? Namor the Submariner for number one, because he's the type of character that should be throwing a wood chipper, as far as I'm concerned. Probably who else? John Kent. Who else? Who actually? What JJheat? What are some characters that you think have to go away?
If I could shelve a particular character, ooh, Steve Trevor, that's one.
Yes!
Because of this,
That's another one too.
Steve Trevor, Roundhouse from okay, first of all, I've been requested about the Adam Glass run so many times. I feel like I'm literally being requested it just to annoy me. But I will do that retrospective on that run since I get requested on it so many times. But for a quick preview, the main reason is because, say what you will about Judas Contract, at least there was a narrative slow burn build up to everything that happened in that story, even prior to that 4-parter. Roundhouse is just Vic play. He kind of reminds me of Anakin Skywalker in the prequels in a way, to where he's just a raging victim, lashing out and pushing blame on any other factors other than his own. And he makes the run worse as a whole because he's so freaking annoying, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Jared is going to inadvertently summon Namor into the real world. He steals your girlfriend. No. Well, as far as I know, I have a trident, so I could fight Namor and stab him against a wall. But Lois was in her 30s in the 80s, and the current stories take place in the 2010s. Yeah, and apparently, according to DC, everything's canon. So Sally Acorn is how Jared sees Lois Lane. Pretty much, Creature Commandos would be successful as Gunn currently thinking. He thinks that. I still have to see more information about it for me to judge, but I don't think it's going to be as big as he thinks it's going to be. I would shelve Aunt May and Gwen Stacy because both characters have done giant as of late. And Ben Riley.
Wait, are we talking about Spider-Gwen or Gwen Stacy that's been dead for the past 40 years?
Well, what I would do also in terms of Spider-Man is move Miles and Gwen and all the other redundant Spider people to their own worlds, because Miles worked as Spider-Man when he had his own Earth because he wasn't competing with Peter. That's it. Because those of you that know me know that I hate when characters share mantles. It's a marketing ploy that doesn't work. Is Creature Commandos as a team really exist? They do exist. In fact, I have a trade of their comics right now. They do exist. It's an older comic. It's an older code
from the 80s.
It's an older code, but it checks out. I had to. Gwen Stacy from the 60s, who keeps coming back as clones. Well, yeah, I do agree with you on that one. But all in all, okay, so JJheat, let me ask you this real quick. How would you rate the JLA movie out of 10? I gave it a 0.5.
I give it a 1, and I'm being generous.
Okay, there you go. How about when you're not being generous?
Is there even a number to describe how bad this movie is?
Nice. Yes, Lois Lane has been a part of Superman mythos since the beginning, and she has her place, but I'm sick of her being shoved down my throat. Yeah, exactly. That's my point. I'm like, stop it. Spider-Man is a powerful street level hero. How the hell did he become Marvel's poster boy for the multiverse? Anyway, the multiverse, Spider-Verse. It's easy, Spider-Verse. Who is the Gwen Stacy of DC? Do you mean the character that keeps coming back as a clone?
There's that not many characters in DC fit that description.
In terms of really messed up storylines, you could say that like Bruce Timm did the whole thing with Barbara Gordon and Bruce Wayne. So that was kind of like Sins Past.
You do realize Bat Says directly inspired Sins Past, right?
Well, still,
I'm just saying, if we're going to have that argument, we can go there.
Question. Speaking of editorial, how would you guys fix DC and Marvel? Immediate hard reboot everything. Start it from scratch. Or just start the universes, start the Ultimate Universes, fire the current editorial staff, hire people that actually know what they're doing, and stop hiring people that obviously don't know the characters. That's it. Just tell them you're done. Maybe Kyle Rayner's girlfriend.
I see what you did there, Dave.
Dave, I got you on that one. Yeah.
Do
Do you mean the one who was fridged? New Superboy origin is Gwen Stacy. I don't know. But but JJheat, let me ask you, how would you fix Marvel and DC?
Now, say what you will about a New Direction verse, that's kind of a passion project. And although it doesn't fix a lot of mistakes that stemmed about from 5-10 years ago, it wouldn't fix where DC and Marvel ended up now or currently now. Marvel, you could get away with another reboot, but with Marvel, you just need to tweak some things, like very minor. With DC, it's very convoluted, all over the place. I feel like it's time for another reboot. You call it another Crisis event, make it another Flashpoint. I don't care. At this point, we kind of need a full scale reboot. We've passed the can long enough. And there used to be a time where we would get a Crisis event every 5 years or so.
Yeah, Jim Lee recently did an interview and he tried to classify Rebirth as a reboot, which it's a soft reboot. I get what he's going for, but by reboot, I think when we talk about reboot right now, we mean completely hard, like Flashpoint style reboot, which, by the way, that may be my next commentary video, revisiting the topic as to DC needing a reboot. So there you go. Question, speaking of legacy characters, any legacy characters you actually like? Connor Kent, Superboy, Kara, any of the Green Lanterns, Nightwing, any of the Robins, and that's about it. How about you, JJheat?
Now, granted, most legacy characters have had decent build-up, repertoire, and fan base. There's nothing wrong with expanding the lore. It's only when you rush it to chase a headline or for a publicity stunt do things go awry, because there's nothing organic about this character's new position. What sets him apart from previous sidekicks? John and Jace fit this role perfectly, because Jace is pretty much a Terry McGinnis in the present day, and John is redundant the moment Clark gets back from War World.
Yeah. In fact, that's why he was Superman. Kyle asked her to get a call when she took that. Took that literally. Oh, geez, Dave.
Yeah, we're gonna get demonetized. But
Convergence was technically a soft reboot.
I see where you're coming from, Tevia, but that was more of an overhaul while they were moving offices.
Yeah, but Barry Brown says we need a new 52 style reboot. Yes. And a hot take, you don't need a Crisis reboot. Just give the old universe a proper ending and then start clean with a new universe. That's technically a reboot, but I see what you're going with there.
And Pika made a good point. He said Tara is the Gwen Stacy of DC, specifically how they keep trying to victimize her because of her age.
True. Okay, I'll give you that one.
Yeah, that's a fair argument.
Any legacy characters that you like from Marvel Comics? None, because the ones that they did with like all new, all different failed miserably, and it was dumb to like replace those characters when the MCU was picking up.
Bad synergy all across the board, but I will give you 3 that were semi-decent. Winter Soldier, Captain America by Ed Brubaker.
Yeah, that was good.
Miles Morales during Ultimate and briefly when he carried over due to character popularity. Arguably, he was the only modern legacy character that was decent.
Yeah,
and Jane Foster Thor, strictly because of Gore the God Butcher saga. In the context of that story, Jane had a pretty decent arc.
The run itself was not bad. It's just the problem with it is that I don't like how Aaron had to change Thor lore, pun intended, in order to justify why she could call herself Thor, because he said, "Oh, Thor's just a mantle and stuff." I'm like, no. The hammer said, "Whosoever holds his hammer, if they be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor, the guy." Archie did a reboot with the Mega Man crossover, so DC could do the same thing with the crossover. Yeah, it's true. Honestly, DC should abandon floppies and reboot with a simple continuity for quarterly graphic novels that'll be on shelves next to manga. That's an option because, I mean, you would get more of the manga people because graphic novels sell more than floppies, I would say. speaking of
Yeah.
Ultimate Universe,
Especially when you're trying to do an interconnected story, but that's basically admitting defeat because even then, some people can only afford single issues at a time. That builds the slow burn of watching one part to the next. It builds investment. If you get an entire story arc all in one package, it might as well be a one and done. And if you can't, especially if the story was either half-assed or just not good, that's way too big of a gamble.
True
but
that.
I see the argument.
Randy, if DC needs a reboot, then we need a proper reboot, no carryovers. Yeah, because that was the problem with the Flashpoint reboot, because they carried over Batman and Green Lantern because they were selling, and I'm like, no, if you're doing a reboot, get rid of everything.
Green Lantern is understandable because everything is space themed.
No, not everything. Sinestro Corps and Blackest Night took place on Earth.
Other than those two, you could get away with a lot with Green Lantern.
If it were not just those two, I would agree with you. However, the rest of it doesn't work. Because you also had the Justice League and the characters that supposedly were key to those events didn't exist in DC at that point. It just doesn't work. All right, so Tavia says, question, speaking of Ultimate Marvel Universe and the new being a success, do you believe the universe will start affecting the mainstream?
They took elements of Ultimate in the MCU itself.
No, he means in the mainstream comics. I don't think so, because if they were going to affect the mainstream, the main universe, why make an alternate universe? That's it. They also carried over Wildstorm characters, which is a bad idea. No, that was a good idea that was executed poorly, because those characters could have worked in DC. It's just they didn't do anything cool with them.
Except Grifter, but he ended up becoming just a generic anti-hero, basically a generic Red Hood.
Mm-hmm. And Jovikin says, I wish the DCU would start with a Justice League movie instead of having to get solo movies first again. Well, remember, technically we're getting a solo movie because they're showing up in Superman. So technically there's there. That's what I think Gunn is trying to do. He's trying to have both. Green Lantern story was the most problematic, where aliens are too tiny and less human looking. People get overwhelmed. Yeah, exactly. Also, hope you guys are having a good Easter weekend. You
you too.
You too. Yeah, true. They wasted the Wildstorm characters. Yeah. So it'll always stand as like the biggest waste of a good idea. So anyway, so I think that's a good place to wrap it up. JJheat, thanks for coming on. Let everyone know where they can find you and what you got coming on your channel.
Well, you can find me at JJheat75 at Twitter or X, or JJheatBlaze. This Saturday, just a few hours ago, I recently started my Mass Effect Saturdays, where you get where I upload my Mass Effect playthrough content on Saturdays. Also, SWTOR is coming back, and I'm working on the first New Direction verse. Well, this is an Elseworld involving what if Scion appeared in the Decamu.
That could be fun. And and in terms of, for me, again, Super Wonder Legacy is going to be me and Britt talking about how the super families would converge with the Wonder families. For my commentary, I'm going to be talking about why DC needs a reboot. I decided that's a good topic for this week. And then in terms of Under Two Capes, we're going to try and make us a respectful Suicide Squad game that would be like a send off to Kevin Conroy, or whatever a topic you guys would like to see. Events like Blackest Night did happen in New 52, but happened differently. That's something they should have explored in one shots. Yeah, that would have been cool if they explained that, because they did like throw in there like, oh yeah, this happened. I'm like, where was this? But anyway, and next week for movie night, I was thinking about it. So on Monday, we are doing the April Fool's stream where we're all gonna positively review our BS stuff. I'll see what happens, everyone. And in terms of next week's movie night, we may discuss the X-Men TV pilot. You remember that one, don't you, JJheat? And JJheat's not here, but that's fine. So
to be continued.
Yeah, definitely to be continued. But anyway, everyone, Stay heroic, and I will see you guys in the next stream. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lame, and she belongs with General Zod. Zoe's for life. See you later.